Hello, 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 our beautiful, beautiful friends. It's Hadia and Angela. And happy my beautiful doggy passed on into doggy heaven, so she's no longer with us. HadiaLoving.com is my webpage. I am a spiritual counselor, life coach, fulfillment coach. I invite you to go to my website and sign up for your sessions. And Angela is also a shamanic healer extraordinaire. She's amazing. And if you would like to get in touch with her, reach out to me and I'll pass on. You can work with either of us or both of us. Today, we're going to talk about shifting, up-leveling, being flexible, making changes, be the change that you long and wish to see in the world. If you want someone to change yourself. If you want someone to be flexible, I invite you to be flexible. And looking at how we limit ourselves, our limiting thoughts and beliefs, and how they get in the way of creating the life that you desire, that you deserve, that you want. I want to invite Angela to introduce herself in depth. And then we will continue on with sharing about flexibility, about change, and how valuable and important it is to up-level your life in consciousness of body, mind, emotion, spirit, and soul into spirit. Into spirit means creating with people, places, and things. And also, if you believe in God, if you believe in vibration, if you believe in energy, whatever you believe in, it applies to that. And you can believe in everything, all these things. Nature, creating with nature, creating with God, creating with spirit. Okay, Angela.
When you say in depth, I think you just mean like my little intro of what I do. Is that what you're looking for?
Intro. You're the master.
Because in depth for me can go a long time.
So I'm just kidding.
Okay, 1 minute, Angela. So, and now Anu walks into the room. So
Angela's cat.
Anubis is my cat, and he's got his little, what I call hanky pinky blanky with him, so he might be making some noise. I am also a life coach. I do shamanic healing. I also am a certified biofield tuner using tuning forks. It's a wonderful modality. I do tarot card readings. These are probably the top picks on my soon to be released website.
Great. And Angela is a great healer. I actually refer my clients to her, and they love her work. And I work with Angela. So we work together to support each other as well. We hire each other.
We do.
And that's how much we support each other's work. I believe in what she does, and it helps me. So today, changes. It's valuable to look at your life and find out where you feel stuck. And one of the ways to recognize that you're stuck is when you're experiencing depression and or anxiety. Some people experience depression and anxiety at the same time. That means you're stuck in a space of hurt, of pain, of trauma. And to heal a pain, you got to step outside of it. Like when scientists are trying to find a cure for something, they step outside of the disease so they can find a cure. Focusing on the disease doesn't help you get a cure. You got to step outside of it. So I will start sharing personal things that this past year has been very, very challenging for me. And at the same time, I was open to change and showing up for the support, for the guidance. And as most of you know who listen to us, I have a whole team of support system for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. I have my counselors, my coaches, and as I shared earlier, I am a client of Angela's. Uh, we've been friends for a long time, but also I value her shamanic work and it's healing for me, and I need that support, especially um, all the things I've been going through this year. So at the end of last year, my mom got really sick and she had a big abscess and she was actually literally dying. And when I tell people, when I tell this story, people don't believe me. She had a huge infection in her chest and her chest kept getting bigger and bigger. And she would go to emergency, they'll send her home. And this was the beginning of this year, and I was taking care of her. And finally, we went to a surgeon doctor, and she literally cut a big hole in her chest. And you won't believe it unless you see the picture. You're like, what? When I tell people my mom literally had a hole, they're like, okay, whatever. But when I show them pictures, like, whoa! It was 8 centimeters wide and 4 centimeters deep. So the year ended with that and started with that, and then finally my mom got better. And then a few months later, June 9th, Happy, my beautiful dog who I love and adore, passed away, and that was devastating because I love her so much. And then July 27th, my uncle, who's a father to me, my father passed away when I was 2. So July 27th this year, 2020, right? We're 2021.
2021.
21.
Soon to be 22.
Passed away. And I got sick and got COVID. And so did my sister. My sister went to the hospital. Her husband took her to the hospital, and she just started getting worse. And she passed away September 5th. So there's all these really traumatic experiences I've had, almost losing my mother, losing my beloved dog, losing my beloved uncle, losing my beloved sister. My sister and I were good friends. She wasn't just a sister. We spoke every day. We hung out 3-4 times a day. And because of the shutdown and COVID, I was like, you're my only friend. And we would go do stuff, and I really missed her. And I just kept looking how I need to show up differently than who I was in the past with pain and grief. And someone said, God, the universe doesn't give you anything you can't handle. So that's not only it. There's a teacher of mine who I love and care about. Of 11 years, I'm part of this counseling community. I go to psychology counseling classes because I like to keep myself up and what's going on, and I love learning. She died on Monday, a week ago. And I was like, okay, who thinks that I can handle all this? So instead of going into depression, in the past, I would have gone into depression, locked myself away from the world and not spoken to anyone. And I don't know when I would have come out. Like, I've had traumas happen to me in my 30s, and I literally locked myself away and slept for 6 months. I just couldn't deal. So I choose to celebrate life and to show up for life and living. And the way I do things differently is I ask for help. I was a person who could not ask for help. I was the village caretaker. Everybody came to me. People would say, Hadia knows, Hadia will do it. And I'm like, okay. And I loved it. I love taking care of everybody. And then I got in a car accident in 2007, and my body totally crashed and burned. And I had to learn to receive, to ask for help. And it was very challenging. So I ask for help, and I reach out, and I set boundaries. And I tell people, I don't want to just grieve constantly. It's too much. My body can't handle it. I would collapse and be sick. So I use tools like laughter. I call my counselors and I say, I just want to talk. Can we have a normal conversation like two people? Because that's what would support me now. I know you want me to grieve, but I can't. I can't just cry the whole time. And I do grieve and I do cry. And I allow myself to cry authentically. On Sunday nights, I have a group on Zoom and I invite you to come if you would like. And I shared about it yesterday and I started crying. And I'm like, it's authentically coming up. I'm going to, if it's there, it's there. I'm not going to push myself. So it's valuable and important to get feedback from people who care about you and people, healers, to support you. Living in the shadows or dark night of the soul. And I've done that. I've lived in my dark night of soul plenty in my 20s, 30s, and part of my 40s. It's good to do that, but it's also good to come out and be in the light, be in life, be in thriving and flourishing. I've shared about my sister on Facebook. In the past, I would have never let anyone know that my sister passed away because I love her. That's a very tender space and very private. But I'm open. I reach out to her children and to the people that love her and care about her. I reach out to people that care about me, and I reach out to my coaches and counselors to get support. So noticing where I needed to do things differently to support myself and to support people that love me and care about me. Because what I noticed and learned from all these different grieving, like Happy, my beloved dog, didn't only touch my heart, she touched a lot of people's hearts. And people wanted to reach out and share their stories. My sister touched a lot of people. My sister's family, her husband and her whole family, they're very Catholic. They put her funeral service on Facebook, and over 7,000 people watched it. My sister's not famous. She is a homemaker. She got married, she became a wife, and a year later started having children, a mother. She was part of her kids' PTA and whatever mothers do. And in church and Sunday school and all that stuff. It's amazing what a light she was in the world and how many people showed up. There was over 500 people on a Friday at 11:30 at the church service. And then they live in the valley in Los Angeles. It was 100 degrees and 500 plus people came to the burial and stayed. Nobody left. And they invited the family to throw flowers in her casket. And everybody lined up. Everyone that was there lined up and took a flower and threw it in the casket. It was just so beautiful and so lovely to see how many people's lives my sister touched. So you don't have to be rich, famous to touch people's lives. My sister was an ordinary person that loved people, cared about people, and supported people. People showed up to celebrate her life when she died and moved on into the spirit world. So I'm starting with that because it's a tender space. My sister passed away a couple of weeks ago. And to notice the change, and I keep showing up and choosing life. I wasn't that kind of person. When my father died when I was 2, like depression hit early in me. And it was very challenging for me to share my vulnerability and authenticity when it came to loss and pain. I only shared my joy. So it's really important to share your pain with the people that love you and care about you and get support. Most of us learn to be happy. And most of us learn to lie to each other. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm fine. Like, no, I tell people my sister just died when we went to Whole Foods to pick up some food, and the person that works there was like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm not doing too good. My sister passed away a few days ago, and they had compassion. This is so amazing. Oh my God, I gotta share this. My mom was talking to her bank, and she shared with the person that her daughter died, and they sent her flowers today. Called
Oh,
Federal Bank. Isn't that amazing? Like when we share our authenticity and vulnerability, it moves people. And people get in touch with their loving and their sweetness and their tenderness. It heals we heal each other. Today we got flowers from Federal Bank. You never thought in a million years that a bank would do that. I was like, it really touched my heart more than, I mean, my sister had tons of flowers. If you go on Facebook and you see her funeral service, she had tons of flowers. But this touched my heart because I'm like, wow, the person that she was talking to in customer service really was moved and wanted to let my mom know that she was loved and she's cared for. It's amazing. So show up, be flexible, learn to change your life in a path that it works for you, and open up your heart to receive love and kindness and sweetness from people, places, and things, from the bank or whoever. And we'll talk more about physical, mental, emotional spaces. And for me, it was a physical thing to show up. And we're in COVID, and there was a lot of people. And I'm a touchy-feely person. And people wanted to come up and hug us, you know, and give their condolences. And I kept saying, I'm not touching, because I had COVID, went to a wedding, contracted it. Like, COVID is a serious thing, and we got to take it seriously. So I honored my boundaries, and I just kept bowing to people, and people honored me and I'm concerned about my mom. She has health challenges. So I was like, just mom, let's just keep bowing to people. So find out what is good for you and set your boundaries. And it feels like, I mean, it felt uncomfortable because I really wanted to hug people and touch them. But I'm like, no, I need to protect my physical body and to them too. So, Angela, go ahead. What do you got?
well, a lot of what you're saying just makes me reflect on authenticity, and we talk about it a lot, but you know, it can be true that sometimes flexibility means doing the things that we don't want to, but sometimes it's not doing the things that we want to. Just like you're saying, you know, regularly you would want to hug and be affectionate, and it's just it's gauging where we are in the now. And I know, just like your vulnerable sharing, that, you know, myself included, it's just been like one crazy year after another. And a lot of people in my own life who have, you know, my own stepdad almost died this year and is going in soon for another not without risk operation. And, you know, I'm not going to start making a big list of all the things going on, but there's just a lot. and we did have a little family party recently, and I could just tell kind of like the strain on everybody. But it was a gift to just show up authentically, even admitting some of the strain and the pressure that we're under, because we can then know it's okay and it's safe, and we don't have to put on a front. And there's just a level of understanding whatever we want to change in our life. You know, adaptability is kind of another word we can use towards change. Like, how can we be adaptable? So you had to be adaptable in that, oh, I'm so happy to see everybody show up for my beautiful sister. And yet, where I would normally give you a hug today, I have to say no to that. You know, and in my family environment, it was the same. There, you know, there were things I might normally do in ways I might normally want to be with people. that I couldn't, but still having that heart space and that open vulnerability, it was a way that we adapted to a situation of finally being able to be together. You know, my uncle who was visiting was supposed to be here before COVID started and hasn't been able to fly. So, you know, we finally got to be together in the way that we could. But life is all about change, and when the waves keep hitting us one after the other, you know, sometimes we're just tired and we don't know how to adapt. But being authentic and being vulnerable with the people that we know are going to support us is one way of moving into greater resiliency and adaptability towards the change that just doesn't seem to stop coming. And as you said, you know, change sometimes is about inflexibility. Or people say, well, I'm just like that. Some people, you know, never give hugs or never share their personal stuff. And okay, that's okay if it works for you, but it probably doesn't if that's always the way that you are. And on the other hand, sometimes people really want to change. Maybe somebody that wants more affection, but doesn't know how to reach out. There's just ways that we can learn to be a little bit more flexible to get what we need. And that might be more about just feeling stuck and not knowing how to make that shift. So the change, as you said, be the change you want to see. It starts with us and how we reach out. And then there is also, as we talk about support, what that looks like and how we engage with others, and what that looks like and how we allow ourselves to receive from others. And it's a fine line as we bear our own comfort zones, but change always will likely breed some discomfort when we're stepping out of what we know, whether it's a way of being or a way that the world is changing that we have no control over. Our locus of control always, what do I have power to do? Who do I have the power to be or show up as that is different than before, that can achieve a higher outcome in the here and now?
I have to share one more little story, and then I'll talk about something else about change. But vulnerability and authenticity. So we had a service on Sunday, and on Monday I needed to go make a copy of a key, and I was at Home Depot, and I was trying to pick the key, and the guy was getting impatient. And I was still like foggy. It's like we just buried my sister, and but I needed to do this errand, and finally I looked at, and you know, I'm wearing a mask, he's wearing a mask, and he goes, you have to pick number 66, and they're all mixed up, and I'm like and I finally said, you know, my sister just died a week ago and we buried her on Friday, and I thank you for being kind and patient. He totally softened and he shifted. He changed his attitude from being agitated with this woman who can't figure out what key to pick to, like, he was like, oh, okay. And he was like, oh, this is the number here and here and here. I'm like, it would have been easier if like the numbers were all together. They had them all spread out. And I'm just like, it felt overwhelming. And when we're in pain, anything feels overwhelming, like picking out a key to make for a door. So my willingness to be vulnerable and authentic supported this guy to be vulnerable and authentic. And I may never see him again. I don't know. I don't usually go to that Home Depot. So we had a sweet connection of humanity. And this is what me allowing myself to change from keeping everything secretive and keeping my vulnerability to myself into sharing it was a gift for myself and this other person. And somebody shared with me a long time ago, if you want someone else to change, you need to do the change. If you, like most of us live life being victim, well, they have to change. They did this to me. It's like, no. Moses said, Hadia, you change you. And Michael Jackson has a song, Change the Man in the Mirror. I don't know the song very well. I don't remember it right now. And do you? No, exactly.
I don't ever know the songs you bring up.
I know. I used to dance when I was young, and those like were the popular dancing tunes. Um, and it's in the Bible. If you know Jesus Christ, he said, when you change yourself, you change thousands. So when you give yourself the gift and the opportunity to change from being rigid into flexibility, into actually shifting something that is no longer serving you, you help yourself and you help a lot of people. It's like the ripple effect. When we do a loving action, we don't know how far it goes. Um, so I invite you to be open. I mean, I've worked with people and I've known people that would say, well, this is who I am. I'm not going to change. Now think to myself, how sad for you. I feel sad for you. If you don't want to take the time to change who you are and up level, it's sad because you're stuck and your life will be the same. And as a soul and a spirit in a human body having a human experience, it's an opportunity for us to continuously grow, to continuously up level our physical beingness. I know, Mary Grace. She's 76, but she looks like she's 40. And it's not like, oh, 76 is a new 40. No, she constantly educates herself. She gets up at 4 in the morning and goes and gets trained. She works out every day for 2 hours. She keeps her physical body fit. And then she prays and meditates. And then she reads inspiring things. She keeps her mental body, her mental mind physically fit, if I could say that. And then her spiritual self, she keeps that fit by prayer and meditation. And she has a spiritual community, a church that she belongs to, and she does service. And then emotionally, she's part of groups and she has therapists. So it's really important to take the time and look at, am I happy with my physical body? Do I want to say this is how I am and I don't want to move? And if that's it for you, it's fine. If you're happy with the way your life is, it's fine. There's always room for up leveling, for growing, for changing, for being flexible, for shifting, for learning. There's always room. And I believe we can always get better and better. We can always be healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can always make more money. You can always travel more. You can always have more fun and joy. You can always have more friends. The first thing you got to do is change how you do things now so you can get what you want. You want to share with us about the physical experiences, how you're working out and all that stuff, Angela?
Oh, well, sure. So, and I'll kind of just blend that into like one of the suggestions I have for how to change. When we say you have to be the change you want to see, it's true. You don't get anywhere without moving towards what you want. But a lot of times when if our mind is stuck or our mind is set and we just don't know how to be anybody other than who we think of ourselves as or how we've shown up in the past, doing something like a personal inventory can be a really useful step. And as you said, Hadia, I have also been employing Hadia recently to support me in some of my steps forward. And And it's so funny because it's true, we're friends, we talk all the time, but it's like we can put on a slightly different hat when we're working together. And there's just things I already know and have practiced for so long that seem so simple. But as that coach to me, like Hadia will put these reminders in front of me that just help me again have more awareness of my mindset and how I can take a small step to with loving kindness for myself, be more flexible, say something in a new way, do it in a slightly different way. So this week, part of what I've been really, last week, part of what I've been really been working on is getting back into just better fitness health. And I have been, doing this for some time, but in July, visitors came and, birthday happened in August, just all this stuff that kind of, took me off my strict course that I was on. And then it was hard to kind of get back. So trying to build up again that momentum. And so looking at, for me, incompletions, well, my incompletions were that I was not doing my, however many days a week. And I didn't even have specifics necessarily set. I was fairly consistent before, and I was pleased enough being consistent, but I had to get down to being specific in order to be able to be the change I wanted to see and to meet my goals for moving forward. So knowing where I was and knowing where I want to be, and then understanding the steps in between. Realistically, I'd fallen off the wagon for about a month and a half. Where I want to be is about 5 pounds lighter, because I managed to put them all on when I was not burning calories, when I was going out to all the birthday dinners and brunches. And but I know I'm not far from my goal, but here's what it looks like to get back there. And the more specific I am, the more specific you are, and the more honest with yourself and authentic you are about where you are, the better you can take those steps. So I'm going to suggest that you can do a personal inventory for anything. It can be your health and your physical well-being. It can be relationships. It can be finances. It can be personal, professional. The list goes on and on. For me, I had to say to Hadia, my commitment was, I'm going to work out 5 times a week. And specifically, I've talked about it before, but there's these adorable girls in Vietnam that do this video, Dance Fit Inc. or something like that. But they move every part of their body in a way that I like it. It's a stretch for me because it's not like the kind of flowy movements like Angela does and knows. It's not yoga. It's not all those things that are easy for me necessarily. But I have so much fun because it's different. It's a different kind of movement. Like you're doing continuous like belly crunches, and some of it's more kind of like hip hoppy moves. And, and I think that's not me. But I love expanding into, my expression can be everything. Like, why limit myself and make myself small? So it's part of why I like it, because it's different, it's unknown. It allows me to find something new about myself, and I can have fun and smile and dance, which I enjoy, like all while I am sweating bullets. And 10 minutes into my 50-minute commitment, I am already sweating and I do want to stop, but I know if I keep going that I get to that 50-minute mark and it feels so good. And the truth is, where I stopped that physical practice, some other things had creeped in that I hadn't even necessarily associated with the lack of exercising or being more physically active as I had been. I was just a little bit more lethargic, a little bit more down. And I know when my food is off balance and my exercise isn't what it should be, those things happen. But caught up in it in the moment, I don't have that awareness. I just think, oh, I don't have so much energy this week. But what happened after my first time doing my 50-minute workout again, I had more energy that night. I had more energy the next day. And so it goes on and on. And I also realize, after saying I'm going to do it 5 times a week, it's okay if you realize, maybe 5 times a week is more than I can really commit to. Maybe I need to not say I'm not going to exercise 5 times a week, but maybe what really is going to serve me better. And this was true for me this week, Hadia. I'll tell you early before our next session. Like 2 days on, like my body was sore. I was waking up going, oh yeah, like it hurts so good. But on, the 3rd day, I was like, if I do this today, like I really might just hurt my knee that, easily gets injured when it's not strong. And so what I did do is I decided I'm going to stretch. I'm still going to be active. I'm going to move. I'm going to breathe. I'm still going to commit to the same 50 minutes. But I did yoga that day instead. And that was like, the little whatever yoga in between the dance fit ink sandwich, because on the tail end, I did like my really hard, dripping, constantly moving, music super sped up workout again. And so now I also know what works for me, and paying attention to what works for me is also really important, because ultimately it's all about self-care. So my inventory looked like I want to increase my workout again. What is the right number of days of the week? For how long am I going to do it? What needs to be true about it in order for me to want to keep doing it? Well, I have to break a sweat. I want to get sore. And it also has to be fun. And then I have to do a negotiation. I don't want to push myself over the edge to where I hurt myself. So I'm going to find a way to keep my commitment. But the right buffer for me was yoga. Maybe it could have been a more gentle kind of dance or qigong. But that is how this week I did my negotiation and still kept my commitment. And then I've already told you about some of the good benefits I'm already seeing. And and I also improved my food this week, but I also already lost 2 pounds just because I think I burn like 500 calories every time I do that workout. So that's one thing that I did, and would encourage you again too, to look at all those different areas in your life to see what is incomplete and what specifics can you commit to get closer to where you really want to be. Of course, that's my 1-week goal, and I'll check in with Hadia again in another couple of days to say how I did on my other commitments for this week. But then also, fast forward it into what is my end goal? I want to lose the 5 pounds. I want to tone. My stretch goal, beyond, well, I already know the weight that I want to get to is a weight that I could be. But beyond that is, I've never seen myself like super toned and strong. Or, even being able to run around the block since I was fairly young. So like, those are the kinds of things I'm thinking about is as a stretch goal. And I'm not there yet, but I also know that that's something that I'm building to. So there's the immediate goal that I'm comfortable with and I've reached before. And then beyond that is the exciting idea of what if, in a positive sense. A lot of times we what if ourselves with negativity and we don't even get going. But But what if like I'm stronger than I ever have been, at 54 years old? Like that's an exciting idea. So those might be some things we work towards next, but this is how I'm securing it and anchoring it for myself in the now and finding what works so that I can continue to agree to and have those completions. And I can also look to some things I've done before, maybe incompletions that I know I'm not going to pick up again. Like, I tried this other, workout. It wasn't fun for me. So I'm going to put that one aside, because if I still have an overhanging commitment and it doesn't really feel like a fit for me, that's also an energy suck. I know this exercise. I love it. I'm going to keep doing it. So just for starters, look at what's incomplete in your life and look at completions to build towards your goals and your commitments for the change you want to see in yourself. And for me, that physical level strength and endurance is just one of all the other areas that I mentioned.
What I love about what you're saying, Angela, is the joy. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be painful. Most people, we think of change as, oh, I have to work hard. You don't have to. Like, you chose this dance exercise and it brings you joy. It is changing your physical body and it's supporting you get to your goal weight of what you want to be toned, but also you're having fun. Change and flexibility can be fun. And when we up level, it actually empowers us. Like for me to up level into choosing to thrive and flourish and live my best life, even though I'm grieving like, what is it, 4 or 5 things, people, and be happy as a spirit. She wasn't an animal. I call her my beautiful soul dog. I'm grieving the losses, but I'm also choosing to live my best life, to love more, to have deeper compassion, deeper understanding, deeper connection. And I've always been a person who enjoyed talking to people, but now I slowed down. I listen in a different way. I don't know how to explain it because ever since I was a child, people always talk to me about their stuff. And I learned how to listen at a young age, but now I listen with an open heart, with acceptance, without judgment. Like that's one of the things I needed to change. I grew up in a very judgy environment, judging, because I learned that when you judge somebody and you tell them, it helps them be a better person. And it's not true. Judging people hurts me. It hurts us when we judge other people because we're telling ourselves and them that they're not good enough. There's a difference between judgment and discernment. That's one of the things I worked on for years, not to judge people, but to have discernment on who they are and what they're doing and what they're up to, and to learn, is their behavior going to work for me or not? That's from a place of discernment. But judgment causes me pain. If I judge a person that they're wrong, then I'm upset and I'm hurt, and I'm doing it to myself. My judgment is hurting me, but discernment is neutral. So
you're reminding me of that serenity prayer. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But I don't know if I'm going to say it exactly right, but the grant me the serenity to change what I can, to accept what I can't, and to be discerning of what is it, and to know the difference.
exactly. So if you're one of those people who's judgy, always judging everything and everyone, that is hurtful to you. Work on releasing the judgment and shifting into learning to have discernment about what's appropriate for you and what's not. Everyone is doing the best that they can. And sometimes our best, and I talk about this often, sometimes my best is just to get out of bed and use the toilet and come back to bed. That's it. And sometimes my best is to run around and do lots of things and anything in between. So as long my every day I show up in discernment and loving and kindness and compassion for myself and others, that's a good day. So I invite you to see where your mental process is. Are you a person who judges? Are you a person who's always, I'm not enough? No one is enough. Like shifting how you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself, changing those negative thoughts. They don't serve you, they don't support you. You know, I do this person used to always say, I like being miserable, because I'd be like, are you happy? No, no, I'm not happy. I'm miserable. And miserable makes me happy. And I'm like, good. So that means you're happy. Like,
Yeah. If that's all they ever want.
exactly. So don't be stuck. Be flexible. Allow yourself. Change is good and it could be fun. Like Angela was sharing. I mean, you are brilliant. You found something that is fun and exciting to get you to work out. Because
Can I say another little thing about like our session together? Like, because you're talking about judgment and, and again, like, so I have been doing this work forever. Like I know all these tools and on, and I coach people, but I still have to check myself all the time. And so there's still stories running in here about myself that unless, for example, I'm with a coach, like, we self-sabotage, we use negative speak, and we don't always even realize we're doing it because it's that mental inflexibility. It's something that's so ingrained that we just think it's who we are or who we're not. And so when I was talking to Hadia about my exercise and everything, I actually even made this comment to her, like just out of the side of my mouth, well, because I'm not a jock. And she stopped me and like said, well, like, let's hold on a second. Like I encourage you, to kind of check that statement. And so that was a judgment that I have about myself. That is something that prevents me from going forward or seeing myself as anything else. Like I am not this athletic person. I am not whatever the story was. So I really got to work with that this week and also can do a reframe on it that, I was looking at, my own mental inflexibility and yet like, what is a growth mindset? There are many things we can do to make our mindset more flexible. And so one simple little thing is just about embracing the word yet. So, I said a stretch goal for me would be, to be able to run around the block or to see some muscle. I don't have that yet. I don't feel like a jock yet. But the truth is, like, I am building my stamina. I am building my strength. I am increasing my, my workout time. And, how is that different than what anybody else I might think of as being more of a jock than I am? How's that different than anything else they do? We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And again, I may know that I'm never going to be the track star, but it doesn't have to stop me from having a goal of just running to the end of the block. Like I can start there and then maybe I get around the block. But for me, those are stretches and ways I can show up. And so I just encourage everybody to catch yourself, catch the judgments that you have of others. Oftentimes they're projections of yourself, or what you perceive of as potentially your own shortcoming, and find new language around it. Maybe it's adding the word yet. Maybe it's just sitting down and saying, the truth is, these are the steps I'm taking to show up in that way. And, again, like I have a knee injury I also have to contend with. So maybe I will never be, I don't know, like a Ferrari, maybe I'm a Volkswagen, but I can be the best running Volkswagen in the world. And that's what I aim to be and do right now.
So I want to elaborate just for clarity. I love clarity's sake. So Angela and I are choosing to coach each other. I called because of all the losses that's been happening in my life, and with the intention of living my best life. I called Angela and I said, I want you, I want to hire you to help me up level my life. I want to up level my physical, my mental, my emotional, spiritual, and my soul, and then financial life. I want to release any and all blocks that are in the way, because I want to go to the next level of consciousness, of awareness, of receiving, of loving. So right now, and we've been supporting each other throughout the years. But right now, Angela and I are coaching each other. We're each other's clients as well as friends. um, and so, and that's what Angela is talking about in her, when I was coaching, and we do it. We show up as clients. We're very good with boundaries. We've learned, like, when I'm her client, I'm her client. When she's my client, she's my client. We don't like cross. We're friends, whatever. So that's what she's talking about. And I have to tell you, Angela. So talk about flexibility. I usually have a set time for when I work with clients, but this morning early, I woke up like at 3 in the morning, and I trust the process. And I'm like, okay, so I started working on some stuff, and this person reached out to me and said, can you talk? Are you available? And I'm like, yeah. It was 4 o'clock in the morning by then. And she's like, I need to hire you. I need your help. I've been watching your videos on Facebook. And she reached out to me through Facebook because she doesn't have my information yet. And she's like, I want to pay you. I really need your help. And I got to be of service, and I got to coach her, and she paid me my full fee. And one of my intentions, Angela, that I'm working with Angela, is I want to expand my financial receptivity. So 4 o'clock this morning, just trusting the process, I showed up. I was of service to someone, and the person, and I call receiving money is loving. Like, I had to, like, I worked on this. I grew up in a family where we didn't talk about money. And as a woman, I should have never worried about money or anything, because magically money was just going to get into my lap or something. That's not been my life story. My life story has been, I had to work for everything that I have. And I'm open until now. I'm open for just things for magically to appear. That could happen, whatever. um, and so I reframed money from being disgusting and shameful into loving, because money touches everything. And the more money I have, the more loving I can share and support people and be of service. And the more I can love myself. Like, for instance, I can go get chiropractic treatment. I can hire coaches. I can go get acupuncture. I can get massages. I can support my physical body. I can support my mental, emotional health. I can go to yoga classes. And, the more we have, the more we share. So years ago, I reframed money as loving. So when my clients send me money, I always say, thank you for the loving. And I always think to myself, if somebody on the outside read that, what are they thinking?
It's all a currency.
Right? Well, because I say thank you for the loving. I'm like, are they thinking we're doing something?
Oh.
I don't care. So it's seeing where the stuckness is inside your head, because like Angela was saying, she shifted her thought to, oh, I'm not a jock, and then she added, yet I'm not a jock yet. I like to say until now. That works for me. And I like yet too, actually. And then reflecting on, actually, she is becoming a jock, because her stamina is better. She has more energy. So, because sometimes we have these grandiose idea about what something should look like. Like, a jock could mean, oh, I have to play football, or I have to play soccer, or I have to be a tennis pro. It's not true. Those are limiting beliefs. If I can keep referring to you, Angela, if it's okay, like, Angela is a jock to Angela, whatever that means to her. And that's what I was sharing with this client. Um, I was talking about this person was moving really fast and breathing heavy. And I was like, you need to slow down. The person's like, I don't want to slow down. I'm like, well, maybe we have different interpretation of what slow down means. I'm like, you can go as fast as you can, but you're panting really heavy and you sound tired. It's like a runner. Long distance runners navigate their breathing so they don't get exhausted and pass out. If you are running a long distance and you're not monitoring your breathing, you're going to pass out and you're not going to finish the race. But if you're monitoring your breathing and you're keeping at a steady pace, then you get to the finish line. And the person's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, you can go as fast as you can, but be in alignment with your breathing and notice your body and what your body needs. And that's a good way to shift into supporting yourself. Notice as you're doing the change, is it working for you? And referring back to Angela's story, like working out, dancing 5 days a week, it didn't work for her. Doing yoga in between the days, that is loving, that is nurturing. It's finding the balance and what works for you. So I love how brilliant you are, Angela, in supporting yourself and shifting.
Yeah.
To what works for you and then releasing what doesn't. Because some people, they're like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym 7 days a week and I'm going to do 45 minutes. And whether they're hurting or not, they stick to that commitment till their body quits. So doing the change and hurting yourself is not good. It's not okay. As you do the change, balance it with what feels good to your body, to your mental state, your emotional state, and your spiritual awareness and beingness and your soul's journey. Always be flexible. So it's change and flexibility. Make a commitment to change and also be flexible to what actually is good for you. So, but otherwise, like if I was grieving every day and crying, I would totally be sick and I'd be a basket case. Now I wouldn't be able to function. That is not useful. That is not living my best life. Living my best life is to cry a little, to laugh a little, to show up for my clients, for my friends, for my family, for my life, to have a balance. In the past, I used to dive into my dark night of the soul, close the door, and just focus on whatever I needed to clear. That's not a good way to live life. At least it wasn't. I discovered that it's not okay to do that. It's being flexible and change, flexibility, ebb and flow.
For myself too, I know in the past how I showed up was I was all in or I was all out. So like I'm really, really dieting and barely eating and working out, or I'm just like having whatever I want, and no boundaries whatsoever. So another thing about a growth mindset is to give yourself increasing challenges, but it's also to know that there's no such thing as failure, or to allow yourself what you might call failures, because being that all in or all out person, I would do the same thing in the past. And I, for example, got my knee injury because when I was doing Qigong many years ago, we had a night of 1,000 bows. And though I'd never done it before, I was like, I'm going to do all 1,000. And somewhere around 500, I bowed and my knee didn't feel quite so good. But I was like, oh, I'm going to keep going. Like I'm a healer. It's going to heal. It's going to be fine. Well, really what it was not fine. And it hurt for quite some time. And then every time I went to pick up what I thought was a stretch, it wasn't starting slow. It's like, I'm going to go right into martial arts or something that's like way more masculine than my typical natural practices. But I would always go in, and kind of hit the wall. And the first thing to always go was my knee. So I can look at that now and learn from my past experience all in or all out doesn't work for me, somewhere in the middle. But it also doesn't mean I failed when I tried martial arts and hurt my knee again. I failed when I did my Night of 1,000 Bows and hurt my knee for the first time. They were all opportunities for me to learn what doesn't work for me. And finally, I got smart enough to start paying attention. And so it wasn't a failure this week that I didn't push myself every day. That was the discernment we're talking about, to know, if I push it tomorrow to keep my commitment, like I might actually be hurt and then not be able to continue with my commitment. And that's a way that sometimes we also self-sabotage. How many times have you said, whatever it might be, I'm going to start dieting, or I'm going to start working out. And that's exactly when you step off the curb somehow and hurt, twist your ankle, or do what I did, hurt your knee, like re-injure your knee again, or, or go somewhere where that, I don't know, go to the big party, like when you really aren't strong yet to say no, with all the food platters. There is discernment. So all of these things are part of a growth mindset. And curiosity, like, I knew what didn't work for me in the past that I wouldn't stay consistent at. So what else might be fun? And I started looking for dance videos. All of these things are a part of changing an inflexible mind, but also being gentle and allowing yourself the grace of your process to know what does and doesn't work for you. Those were not failures. Those were ways that I learned didn't work for me in the past. So I know better what works for me now, and can, as I continue to strengthen and maybe that meniscus gets stronger in my knee, maybe I can adapt to some new practices in the future.
And I love that. I truly, truly love that. Is when people make changes, they get rigid. Oh, I made a commitment, and then you get hurt and you can't do anything. So it's again really, really, really important to commit to up leveling and making a change and being flexible within it. Because working out is the easiest form to explain this. You commit to going to the gym 5 days a week, and then you're resting 2 days a week. But sometimes you can only do 2 and then rest, and 2 and rest. So being flexible, if you're rigid, you do hurt yourself. So learning flexibility with your thoughts and feelings. And we don't always have to feel everything we're feeling. Like a lot of people, they either feel everything, or a lot of people feel nothing. It's okay to be flexible even with your thought process and with your feeling process. If I sit here and feel the depth of the pain of losing my sister, and I believe she's in a better place. I truly believe that, but I miss her. Like I look around, we don't really know how much a person is important to us until we lose them. Unfortunately, I've always appreciated her, loved her. She was always important to me. But now everything that I'm like, oh, we did that together. We bought this together. Like everything I touch, it seems like she was a part of it, because we were friends and we hung out a lot. And if I sat in the loss of that, it would consume me. It would be rigid. So being flexibility is valuable, and it's having compassion for yourself. As you choose to change and up-level your life on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, soul level, and financially, allow yourself, as Angela said, have as many experiences. Some people call them failures, but I call them experiences. Experiences are a teacher. If you look at something that you did and you think of it as failure, you're not learning from it. You're hurting yourself. Allow it to be an experience and learn from your experiences to empower yourself, to feel enough, to do it differently the next day and the following day. Um, so changes, flexibility, empowering yourself. And again, as I shared earlier, and Angela did too, sit down and write. Get 5 different pieces of paper, one for physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, soul level. Okay, 6 pieces of paper, and your finances, because money touches everything we do. And bring yourself to awareness. Realistically, write down, how are you physically right now? And where would you like to go from here to there? And do it little by slow, one step at a time. It's not like, if you don't know how to swim, to go and jump in the deep end. That's how I learned how to swim when I was little. My sister picked me up and just literally threw me in the deep end. And I was like, and she goes, you either drown or you swim. And I was looking at her, I think I was 4 or 5, and I'm like, with tears in my eyes going, oh, oh, oh. And she kept saying, you drown or you swim. And then I chose to swim. Thank you. I'm glad I chose to swim. And that taught me something. It was very scary. But I was like, nope, I'm gonna swim. And I learned how to swim, and I've loved swimming ever since. It could have been, if I chose to drown, I'm sure she would have got me out, but it would have been probably, I did not like the water. I would have been hurt. It would have been a trauma. So notice your choices about your life. It's sink or swim, right? People say that, choose to swim. Swimming is more fun.
And sometimes when we're talking about things on the physical level, like swimming or sinking to the bottom, or some of the physical goals I'm setting, those have an external marker of a type. You float or you don't. You either do your workout 5 times a week or you don't. But some of the things that are like more internal processes, like we don't always have the same outside signs, or at least it's not as easily measurable, which is why we also just encourage all of our clients and you to be as specific as you can. And for some things that are more internal processes, like creating little things like a rating scale are also really useful. That's another kind of a personal inventory. So when I was talking about, completion lists, and relationship could be another one, besides the physical wellness. One thing that we did when we were in school, and I feel like it's really time for me to do it again, while we're being authentic and vulnerable. I talked a little bit about, my stepdad almost passing this year and having a surgery coming up, but my real dad also is just starting chemo, and has some other things going on. And I did a relationship project with my dad when I was in college. Now, he didn't know it because my inventory for improving our relationship was something that only I knew about. So I never said, hey, Dad, I have a relationship project with you. I want to improve our relationship. I did in so many ways at different times, verbally acknowledge that with him. But it was little things, and little things I would do, like, when I go to bed at night, I just envision him, and I hold him in love and light, and I, pray for him, pray for his wellness, his happiness. But then there were some external things I did too, like, I'm going to call him, because in the past we didn't talk that much. So even if I called, like every 2 weeks, it was a big deal. And it was yet another thing that I had in writing. I'm going to call my dad, like twice a week. And I would more or less mark it on the calendar and have my own little ways, like, some people like little gold stars, or just to be able to put a check by it because it feels like you're crossing something off in addition to making the call itself. But how would I know I'm making movement towards a goal? Is it just that I'm ticking the box and I made the call? Or is there a feeling I want to have? Do I want to experience a shift in how I'm relating to him? Do I want to experience a shift in some of the judgments that I had or the projections that I had? For many ways that we are very alike, but that are hard for me to be with. So also on that particular relationship project or scale of incompletions that I created, I knew that my nighttime prayers, which was daily, I knew that my, biweekly calls, which were on the physical level, would make a difference, because on a scale of 1 to 5, I would say if there is no change, 0 was like, oh, I still feel critical and I still really don't look forward to calling. All the stuff that used to churn in the story, the inflexible stories in my head of what the relationship was like and what it would always be like. But then somewhere in the middle was like, oh, I'm looking forward to making these calls. Or when I hold him in my mind at night, I actually like have good feelings. I'm softening now. And 5 would be like, actually like, now I'm scheduling time to go see him. And I'm learning about him and sharing more vulnerably and more authentically than I ever have in the past. And it's actually fun when I visit. So, I was making my own rating scale, but it was another external marker for me that let me know these things that I'm doing, even if I'm not telling anybody else in the whole world that I'm doing it, even the ones that didn't involve reaching out to him in a physical way whatsoever, they were just my personal practices at home alone. I could still see they were making a difference, because as I placed my energy and attention on him and on those practices, over time, I was going from like that, I'm at a 1 or a 2, like I'm doing this because I want that, but I don't never really believe it's going to be this way, to where, I saw over time that little needle moving on my scale from, 2s, 3s, up to like the 5 marks. And so we can do that with ourselves too. It doesn't always have to be an external movement. It can be, I want to feel more joy in my life. How do I know if I'm feeling more joy? Maybe it's bringing things into your world every day that remind you of what brings you joy, or that are oh, I don't know, like, maybe just drawing a little picture, even if it's for 5 minutes. If you are an artist, you want to sketch a little cartoon and that makes you happy. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but how do you know it moves the needle? Create a little scale for yourself. And in time, say, my goal is to notice a difference by 1 week, 1 month, whatever it may be, and see where your scale of progression takes you.
I love that. That's really so it's feeling supported by yourself and doing it in action. It's really important to do things in action, flexibility and change in action. And I love the visualization. Like, I'm a person who has a vivid imagination. Like, when I dream in color, like a movie. So I wanted to ask you, Angela, do you want to elaborate more on the scale? Or
I want to say, so I make my scales from 1 to 5, and every marker, the 0 mark, or let's say the 1, is kind of like, the lowest that you're at. Like, the lowest I was at that time, in the past, was like, I'm not very satisfied with my relationship with my father. Like, I wish we were closer. I don't feel close. I don't feel like I can be open and authentic. I don't look forward. I don't look forward to the phone calls, let alone sometimes the personal visits. Like, that's where I was, this was decades ago, but but just to say that that's where I was. And so, every little point on my scale of 1 to 5 measured a slight uptick from that. I'm not at all satisfied. Oh, I feel encouraged. Like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting excited. The middle part is like, I'm seeing a change. I feel different inside of myself. Where a judgment came up, now it might be replaced with a warm feeling, not only about him, but I'm changing how I'm feeling about myself. And not everything in relationships or things that involve another person or say like a job that we want, our locus of control is always, what can I do? I can't guarantee my dad is going to reach towards me because I'm reaching for him. I can't guarantee you if you prepare for your job interview and show up looking your best that they're going to hire you. But I'm still going to give, and you can still give everything that we personally can, and believe in ourselves, and be as clear as possible about our process. And so 5 is the midway marker, 6, maybe the 3 would be the midway marker. And then the 4 and it's like the slight uptick from that. And the 5 on my scale was, now I'm looking forward to our calls, and I'm feeling like we're engaging, and like he's being authentic with me. He's sharing more with me than he has in the past. And, if I get invited over, like I'm actually happy to be there with him. Like I feel like our relationship is really blooming and deepening. So those specifics are necessary, because when we're talking about changing our mind and the patterns and the negative voices and the stories that we tell ourselves, a way that we self-sabotage and often don't even know it is just to talk through things out loud, and it's great if you have a coach or if you have a friend. Yes, talk to that person, but if you sit and are just ruminating and you don't have anybody else to give you constructive feedback, the scales are so valuable, because when it's in writing in front of your face and you've created that scale and that gauge to know, just like in a workout, I know if I committed to 5 days and I only did 2 or 3. I know that, my coach knows that, but I also know exactly what I'm supposed to do, because it's on the page in front of me, or it's on my calendar in front of me. But when we don't get that into that layer of specifics, then that's where self-sabotage creeps in. And so this also puts you in that place of discernment and awareness above the parts that try to be slippery and keep you stuck in your old ways of being. We don't always sabotage ourselves because we don't really want that dream. We don't really want that fitness goal, or we don't really want that relationship. Sometimes it's just that this is what I know how to do. It's like you become mechanical and robotic, and it's like, this is my automatic self. So, don't be on autopilot. Like if you find yourself kind of stuck in anything, that's a really great way to know how you're breaking free from your smallness and stretching yourself, if it's on a 1 to 5 scale, increment by increment.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you for taking the time to describe it, because I feel it's useful. And it's also, somebody shared with me a long time ago, this person would say, I'm a legend in my own mind. So I'm a legend in my own mind, right? So most of us don't really know who we are. I invite you to take inventory who you really are. And if you pay attention and listen to people's feedback, like sometimes people's feedback comes across as mean or criticizing, they're actually telling you something about who you are. So pay attention to that. And people give us loving feedback and positive feedback. Pay attention to that. Get to know yourself, really get to know yourself, because our mind, our ego lies to us. If you really want to take on changing and up-leveling to the life that you want and living your best life, you gotta be true and honest, authentic. and be responsible with yourself. Responsible is response able. Be able to have a response to who you are and what is going on in your life. Response able. If you break down words, it's really helpful. Like when people say, I have a disease, it's dis-ease. It's uncomfortable not to feel well. So I invite you to write. Writing is a very powerful tool. Write down who you really think you are and then ask. There's workshops that people go to, and one of the things, one of their homework, and I did this years ago, one of the homework was to go up to strangers and ask them, who do you think I am? Like give them a piece of paper. And we would go to the airport. I took this class about learning about who I am. We'd go to the airport, give people strangers, total strangers. That's when at the airport you could talk to people back in the day. And people would fill out, and I would stand, like I'm gonna stand right there and just mark off who you think I am. And it was really useful because all of us, when we meet each other, right away, we have an idea of who the person is. And it's actually really helpful to ask strangers because they're not emotionally connected to you. If you want to do this, you don't have to do it. But when I did this, I was 22 years old, and it was really helpful to get to know who I was. And the theme was rigid. Like most everybody said, you're rigid, you're like a stone. And I was very rigid when I was young. I was extremely, extremely rigid. Like if I did things to the nth degree, or I didn't do them at all, just like you, Angela. If I committed to something, I was like, that's all I was doing. And I did it full on, body, mind, emotion, spirit. And so it was like, I was in it, or I wasn't in it. It's like, no, I would never do that. I would, and then I learned to be flexible. Rigidity wasn't supportive. It did not help my life. My limiting ideas about how things should be. Like I was so against smoking and smokers when I was young. I didn't even want, I didn't like talking to people who smoked. I was so about it. And then long and behold, the universe brought this woman in my life, and she became my best friend, and she was a smoker. When I first
Me?
No, my friend, well, I'll say it, my friend Tara, met when we were like 18 or 19, and she'd be outside of class smoking, and I'm like, how rude. I was so judgy, so rigid. And then we became best friends. It was so funny. And so what we resist will manifest. I did not become a smoker. But I learned to, it's like, she doesn't smoke anymore. It's funny, she stopped smoking when I didn't have an issue with it. So learn about your rigidity and how it gets in the way of your life and your prosperity. Prosperity is not just money, prospering on connecting with people. Because I was so rigid, it took my friend Tara and I to become friends longer. We could have been friends right away. We were really good friends, and we supported each other. But because I was rigid and judgy, I didn't want to talk to her for the longest time. She just kept saying hi to me, and I'm like, whatever, you're a smoker.
You did stretch. I mean, I'm more evidence of your stretching and how you've changed and become flexible. I think it's funny that, people do come into our lives that help us, perhaps because we already know something about them and love them. We may not like it, but we're a little bit more allowing. And I know I'm one of those people that helped you with your feelings about people who are late. And I also in the past, even when we were going to our spiritual university, like I won't say who I was with, but somebody that I would smoke with on occasion. And yeah, and
Yeah, you remind me. have a thing about lateness. So I feel that the universe, God blesses me with people who I love and care about that are chronically late.
And God blesses me with people who will have water bottles already in the car and get me there early and put me in the front row. So thank you, Hadia. But it's all part of the dance, and it's all about like finding what's inflexible and working on that. And as you said, a lot of times we get brought just to that point where when we expand our own ability, then the issue is no longer present. I mean, I've had jobs like that where I judged everybody there and I didn't like it. And when I looked at all of the things inside of myself that I could be doing differently and better, then I got to the place where, just one job I'm thinking of, but then I got to the place where I didn't have a problem with those people. I was actually like, okay with that job. And that's exactly when an opportunity came to me that I didn't even have to seek out. It literally came to me. Somebody said, oh, hey, you looking for a job, in a flippant way? And I said, well, actually, yes, I am. But it was no longer because I didn't like where I was or the people. I had worked my own stuff out. And then like I got to be in flow. And that's the way that this works.
Yeah, like also going back to smoking, like I have a family member who I love and care about who smokes and has heart issues and diabetes, and I used to be like, you're still smoking. I was so judgy. You're smoking. The doctor told you to stop smoking. I was so invested in my family members' well-beingness and health. And I went to a workshop and I worked out. I'm like, I don't like being judgy about this. And the judgment comes from fear. When we judge, underneath all that, it came from fear because I don't want to lose my family member. I don't want this person to die. And then I cried about it and I shared about it. And I'm like, I wanted this attached. And finally, I was accepting. And I went up to my family member and I said, I am no longer going to judge you. If you choose to smoke, it's your life. I want you to know that I love you. I care about you. I don't want to lose you. And it's your choice. So you don't have, because I made this family member uncomfortable. They would go and smoke in secret because I was like the smoking pot, and I'm like, and I knew that this person was smoking, and I'd be so mad. I'm like, oh, they think they don't, I don't know. And when I let it go and I said, I love you, it's your life, it's your body. If you die, I'm gonna grieve, I'll feel sad. If you choose to live, and our relationship totally shifted. I stopped becoming, I stopped being the smoking police because I was so attached to this person not dying from cigarettes. I mean, the person, it was just so nice and I felt so free. So change helps us free ourselves from our limitations, from our pain. I was in so much pain about my family members smoking and so scared that they're going to die from cigarettes that it was always a friction. We would get into these snippet jabbing and arguments because I was living in fear. And when I let go, we just started getting along. I freed myself, I freed the person, and it's great. We have a different relationship. It's their body, their life. It's none of my business. And that's another thing. It's like knowing where the boundaries are. The person I need to be caring for is me. And I need to have compassion for me and other people because all of us are challenged. The reason smoking is an addiction. I do food, I emotionally eat. And if somebody was constantly telling me not to eat, I would be miserable. And I work on it. And that's one of the things Angela, the amazing, extraordinary healer, is helping me with. And by the way, my food habits are getting better.
Oh, good, good. That's great.
Making more money and I'm not emotionally eating as much.
We're powerful creators together.
Healing sessions. Um, and that's, it takes me to reaching out for support. I need support. I have my village. And especially in this past year and a half, outside of COVID is hard enough. And then experiences all these losses my baby girl Happy dying, my uncle, my sister, my mom almost dying, and my teacher. I mean, it's been hard, it's been painful, and I choose to see where I can change in this pain, where I can up level, how can I have more compassion, how can I show up with authenticity and vulnerability and of service to myself and others. So I really invite you to see how change is uncomfortable. I can't tell you how uncomfortable it was to shift from judging people and smoking to, you know what, it's their life, it's their business. That's really hard. And it was small steps, like having that scale. It was like, okay, they can smoke as long as they're way away and I don't want secondhand smoke. you know, I like that made me so upset. I'm like, and I hated the smell in my hair and my clothes. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. Why? I'm just using smoking as an example. Rigid also about drinking. I mean, I was such a rigid young person. And it, you know, I enjoy my life better because I let people do them. It's like you do you and I'll do me. And I'm just gonna love you and show up and enjoy your company and enjoy your presentness. So having compassion for our humanity and enjoying our soul's journey. Our soul is here to have experiences. And if you step outside of judging, like Rumi said, there's a field out there outside of right and wrong. I will meet you there. That's one of Rumi's poems. If you don't know who Rumi is, look him up. Amazing poet from I don't know what century right now. I can't think. I can't.
It's like 1300 or so, circa. Watch me be wrong, but
Poetry is very.
I have a flexible mindset. I'm okay if I'm wrong.
Exactly.
I'll admit it.
I always say I have the right to be wrong. It is okay to be wrong, and it's okay to learn, and it's okay to have joy, and it's okay to have tears, and it's okay to grieve. Be good to you, love you, embrace you. You deserve it. And start with you. The only way that our planet, this earth, is going to heal if every single person, if all of us, me, you, Angela, all of us, completely love ourselves. Love your body, your mind, your emotion, your spirit, your soul's journey, your experiences, and embrace that you are good, good, good. You are enough. You are smart. You are brilliant. That is our true nature. You are joyous. You are free. You are creative. And separate yourself from your life experiences. Like we can't change the tone of our features. My skin is olive, it's brown. I can't change that. But I can change that I am depressed or I am anxious or I am wrong. Those are experiences. I have experiences of depression. I have experiences of anxiety. I have experiences of fear. I have experiences of lack. I have experiences of insecurities. Because if they become experiences, you can change them. But if you claim that you are insecure, you are not enough, you can't change it. My skin is olive brown. I can't change that, but I can change the description of my experiences. I can shift from depression into joy, into harmony, into balance, into sweetness, into sadness, into tenderness, into compassion. So we're going to wrap this up. In closing, my beautiful Angela, what would you like to share?
What else do I want to share? We talk a lot about journaling, and I guess, besides the inventories are really good to kind of help see fallacies in action, to see potential places where sabotage may occur, and to do what you can do to take the steps and follow through. But journaling in itself, if you want something a little more of a creative adventure or something that just inspires you overall, you know, let yourself journal about who you are, where you are now, where you want to be. What do you want from your life? What do you think life wants from you? And what areas, if you feel out of integrity with yourself, or, you know, as Hadia was saying, if you're holding on to something about how somebody else could do something better, trust that you're okay no matter what. and look at what is in your power to control and to do, and then trust how the world will respond to you in light of that. So, you know, who mirrors integrity to you? Who mirrors authenticity to you if you don't know where you see it in yourself? Who inspires you? Write about that. Write about who's demonstrating the life that looks like the one that you want to live. But just let all the kind of juices percolate and let you get excited about the possibilities, and let you believe in your ability to change what you don't know how to, and look to the support that's available to you for it. We're here for you. Others are here for you. And we're just going to continue bringing our love messages forward, so that we can all grow and heal together.
Yeah, thank you, beautiful Angela. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this and watching it either to a podcast, iTunes, or whatever, or YouTube, or my Facebook. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Thank you for being here. And as always, love is given. Angela loves you. I love you. Love is given. And we forget because we get hurt. And some of us get hurt as early as in the womb. If the mother was hurt or upset or nervous, we pick up on that. The truth is, all of us, I'm repeating myself, and I believe it's worth hearing over and over. All of us are born loving, kind, beautiful, zestful, amazing, joyous, creative, brilliant, smart, free, happy. And we forget because we get hurt, and the hurt sets in and it turns into trauma. The adults around us don't know how to support us because they don't know how to support themselves emotionally and mentally. So awaken yourself to who you truly are. Release the pain. Those are experiences. And remember who you truly are. Remember that you are loving. You are amazing. You are compassionate. You are brilliant. You are enough. I love you. Angela loves you. And we will talk to you later. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.